Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast where we feature the innovators, creators, and disruptors who are changing the way that business happens. And today, we are near the end, almost to the end of our top 20 of all-time countdown. And today is number 2. Number 2 is from the CEO of Watch Mojo, a network that is among the most visited all time on YouTube. His name is Ashkan Karbasfrushian. And in this clip, he talks about balancing family, life, and business, and how to make it on YouTube. Check it out.
One of the things I believe in that I myself challenge with is balance. And balance means a lot of different things. Balance is work life. It's, it's a weekend. Why am I even checking my phone? Now, granted, at that moment, my phone's going off. Our fans, everybody's emailing us. I'm like, this can't make sense. And as I said, one of the reasons I wrote the book was 10 years. It was kind of, I'd written a couple books in a span of a couple of years, and then I didn't. There was an element of kind of like just therapeutic, just kind of like getting a bit of like taking a step back and looking. I was on vacation in Greece. I was sitting on the beach, drinking, eating great food, but I had spare time. I write fast, so I pumped out a book, like 300-page book in a 3-week vacation. But I won't lie, it was also because our long-term plans are to move into other forms of programming, original and scripted. I viewed our story possibly because of all the obstacles, all the dead ends we hit, being in debt, practically insolvent. I joked that I was looking for refrigerator boxes in back alleys as my future residence for a while. There was this idea that, if you were to fictionalize our story and adapt it into like a screenplay, that book could be a source material for a possible movie feature like The Founder, like The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm far more boring than the Wolf of Wall Street fella, but that was kind of why I went with that story, which I'm going to get to in a second, because everybody was like, you got to add a bit more personal stuff. And I felt like that's a great moment when you're with your kid. She's at the time 10, no, what am I saying then? She's 5 years old. This was 5 years ago. Wow. She's waiting to go see Santa Claus, and there's a long lineup, and you're like, that's your livelihood and that's your business. As much as you want to say, like, I'll deal with it tomorrow, you can't. And so I said, I've always believed a lot about in balance. In Chinese philosophy, there's the concept of the yin yang, which is all about balance. And, the idea is you may not have equilibrium at every moment in your life, but if you don't have some kind of balance, you die, and that applies to health, body, mind, soul. It applies to work life. Like my wife and I started the company with a couple of other guys. We work together, and it's a great rapport. But that's also the thing. If I work, 18-hour days for 10 years and I come home and I'm angry and stressed and I don't spend time with my wife, well, your business's success may come at the expense of your personal relationship success. So the reason why we started with that was because that's something that I've struggled with a lot. I like to think I'm a great husband, I'm a great father and all that. Definitely not perfect. But I do always say that we are the lucky ones. We're very fortunate. Like, we've won the lottery by living in North America, for one. The fact that, we have these problems, quotation marks, as entrepreneurs is literally first world problems. I think as human beings, we want to be doing things that we enjoy. We want to feel like we're somewhat in control of our destiny. And that's the irony. As much as that day when YouTube took us down, I felt like I was powerless, but I still felt, no, I have a business. And it's like, I so many sports analogies. I'm like, we gave up like 3 goals in the second period, but it's like we're still up 4-3, or if we're down 3-2. It's not 8-0, and I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do, right? So I think that's kind of the theme. It's to say, at the end of the day, it's more important for me to convince my daughter that let's go home because daddy has to take care of a problem, because today is Sunday, tomorrow Monday, I'll deal with YouTube and I'll address that, So it's kind of was like just reminding that, like, to see the forest through the trees, so to speak.
The interesting thing with YouTube is there's kind of like this whole fantasy dream of like being a YouTube star, but there's a great opportunity there too. So I think if you can speak to the listeners about just any advice for someone that's looking to go that route.
Okay. So this may not be what they want to hear, but if they still believe in themselves and still want to do it, it's like the best thing they could hear. First of all, no such thing as an overnight success. You're not going to do this. You may be lucky, but even the worst thing is if you have a hit, you need to have something recurring and sustainable. The worst thing is to have a hit early on, because then you think it's easy, you get lazy. But it is a very long-term commitment. 2, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to do this for free in my spare time and make a lot of sacrifices over a considerable amount of time? If the answer is no, don't do it. Maybe the timing's not right. Maybe you'll go do other stuff, and then in 5-10 years it's right. 3, everything in life boils down to demand and supply, right? Like, I'm a tremendous... Actually, let's go back to sacrifices first, and then we'll go demand supply. I think I'm like a very good, this is a bit arrogant maybe, but I'm like a very good soccer player. Like, I'm a fantastic striker because I feel the striker is the culmination of the players behind him. So if you got amazing dribblers, amazing passers, it's a big net, right? So I score a lot of goals. But I don't kid myself. I would have never played for any national club or any like pro club because I was not willing to make those sacrifices, go to practice. And, you know, in America, there's so many kids that give up their lives playing football, basketball, baseball. In Canada, kids have no lives playing hockey. And I go props because it's much harder to make it for that. So this is the kind of thing, it's very similar. Why? Because in Canada, everybody wants to be, and that's the demand and supply. In Canada, everybody dreams of scoring that Stanley Cup winning goal, or Canada wins the cup, Canada wins the gold. Here, how many kids grow up saying, I want to play in Super Bowl Sunday? I want to play in the World Series. You know, I'm going to be the best basketball player. There are so many people waiting to steal your lunch, so to speak, that unless you're willing to make that sacrifice, you know, after however times you get cut, however times, you know, that a coach says you're not good enough. Now, here's where it gets exciting. You don't have to necessarily please a coach. You don't have to suck up to a teacher that's going to give you that letter of reference to get into a school. The beautiful thing about it, and this is where I get goosebumps, is you can, look, there's a lot of luck and timing. A lot of the biggest YouTubers, it's because a bigger YouTuber early on gave them a spotlight. That is definitely, like if you think of Phil DeFranco, who's a pretty popular YouTuber, he was probably spotlighted by, you know, some bigger YouTuber before him, et cetera, et cetera. But you can basically, through hard work, persistence, and persistence is key, you know, without persistence is the number one thing in anything. But you can actually, over time, through creativity, through hard work, through, you know, just persistence, break through. But it's not something that is done overnight because there are millions of people that are fighting for the same, you know, watch time, mind share. Yeah. My daughters right now in 2018 are 9 and 7. And if you were to, I mean, they're not in high school yet, but if you were to ask kids their age or kids who are teenagers, if you said, what do you want to do when you grow up? YouTuber is probably number one. Above cop, lawyer, doctor, dentist, athlete. They want to be YouTubers because to them, they just see, this is great, you know? So, you know, it's a great platform that's not going to go away. And I feel like there's been this tide where, yes, the celebrities are these, you know, sort of people who are online on various platforms. But if you think it's like easy and, oh, I could do it, that's like saying you could be Michael Jordan, you could be Tom Brady, I could be Wayne Gretzky. Maybe, unlikely.
That's interesting to say because I feel like you could pull out YouTube and that's any entrepreneurial venture that anybody would want to take. Absolutely,
but the difference is, here's where it's, I think, fundamentally different. With YouTube, you do also need a lot more thick skin. Like, I was turned down by 100 venture capitalists, give or take. Like, it could have been 82, it could have been 150, but it wasn't 20. It was a lot, and it wasn't like I turned down by 1,000. And to be fair, you know, Tony Robbins says, we believe the stories we say, and I said, nobody ever offered me, and that's not true. I did have a few VCs where like, here's a term sheet, here's an offer, but they were crappy offers, so I walked away. But by and large, people turned me down. But I was kind of like, okay, you know, I respect this guy, he's smart, he's accomplished, but he doesn't really get video or content. He's like a software guy. Obviously, he's not going to get it. You need a thick skin to continue. But on YouTube, it's amplified and exacerbated by the fact that everybody is a beep, beep, or beep. It's like they're not just insulting you, they're insulting 4, you know, generations up your family tree and 4 generations in the future down your family tree. And so, you know, we are like a brand. We're not a personality-driven channel. And part of the reason was I wanted to build something that if I said, I'm burnt out, I'm going to go sit on a beach in Miami, the company can still go on. And I'm not saying I would have even succeeded, that I would have been like a commanding enough presence for people to tune in. But the problem and the challenge with YouTube is like you do get people coming out and on a public forum bashing you and this and that. And you kind of need a thick skin. And I remember early on when I'd go to these conferences, a lot of YouTube celebrities were shocked that I would read the comment section early on and even reply. But I was like, well, no, it's good feedback. Even if they say you guys suck, you put Batman ahead of Superman, life goes on. I'm not going to go cry about it.
Yeah.
But if these guys were like, oh, I did a vlog about my job and why I quit, and they called me a fat this and a stupid that, I cried all weekend, then it's a bit harder. So yes, it's very similar to entrepreneurship, wanting to be an athlete, wanting to be a singer, but it is, you know, the internet in general is just that much more of a mean place.
That was an amazing clip. If you want to watch the full episode with Ashkin, you can do that. It's episode number 3. Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on a podcast network, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're watching on a social media network, leave us a comment. Let us know that you're watching. Share it with a friend. And check back in next week where we reveal the #1 episode of all time. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
This is where it all begins, so